Hey guys, welcome back. This is Talking College Football with Luke with analyst Dan Pedraza and analyst Anwar Thornton. Guys, it was a fantastic week of college football. Lot of upsets. Who could imagine Indiana going into Autzen, taking out the vaunted Oregon Ducks? But what was the big news over the weekend other than that? James Franklin got fired. So let's talk a little bit about that. But first, before we talk about Coach Franklin, we want to remind our viewers that you can subscribe to our station, or excuse me, to our channel. We want you to like and comment on what we have to say. And also this week, Ms. Renee the Barber is getting ready to give us a delicious treat. So here it is. Let's take a quick look as she talks about fried tacos.
All right, so it's game day snack time. Now we getting ready to cut up in the kitchen. Grab your spoon, grab your beans, and grab your tortilla shells. "10 minutes and we're done." Incredible. If you haven't had a chance to check out Talking Collegiate Football with Luke on YouTube, now's a good time. I'll drop the link below in the description box. All right, everybody.
Wow. I'm not so sure, guys. I want a fried taco. I'm sorry. I like regular tacos,
Hey, I'm open to try it. The sandwich from last week was really good, so we'll see how this one is.
You're immediately dissing it before trying it. That's crazy.
All right. She's being creative for us, and we want to appreciate the shout out that she just gave us as well. All right, guys, let's talk about the big news over the weekend. UAB fired Trent Dilfer. I'm joking. They did fire him, but that's not the big news. I mean, come on. UAB just started a program back up. Dilfer ran Elite 11 and, Super Bowl winning coach with Tampa, but I think it was Tampa that he was with. Anyway, he was let go, and we'll see where UAB goes from there. There's so much competition for these coaches. You still got the UCLA job open. The Virginia Tech job is open. We know some other ones are coming. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. James Franklin being fired at Penn State. I'd like to get your thoughts. You guys are the analysts. Let me know.
Yeah, I didn't think this was going to happen. I saw a lot of people saying online they need to fire him even after last week's game. And then this past weekend, they were saying it even more, but I thought just that the buyout was too much for them to actually pull the trigger and do it. But I think, like we talked about before in previous weeks, in the NIL era, they're going to lose a lot of donations if they don't do what the donors want. So they had to kind of bite the bullet, eat the buyout, and Just get rid of him.
Yeah. So for me, I'm also very surprised that they fired him at this time in the season. We're only in week 7, and Penn State, they were one of these teams that had truly national championship aspirations, and you know, I feel like Penn State's almost like a dead team, this year. They had their national championship aspirations, got let down, and you could tell like that really just affected the whole locker room. I think they just didn't play with a lot of effort against UCLA, Northwestern. And for me, I thought that Franklin had built up more acumen. Franklin is still a top 10 coach in college football right now. And, I think just Penn State had so much built up on the season. This was the season they were building towards. This is kind of a natty or bust year for them. Um, you know, and what we see with James Franklin is he can't win the big game. Now he just can't win any games. But still, I thought it was like he had built up enough acumen to at least that would let him finish
You
out
mean
the season.
credibility?
Yeah. Uh, I thought that he at least built enough of that to finish out the season, but I guess not. You got to bite the bullet. Now it's going to be really interesting in seeing where they go from here. Penn State is one of the top jobs in college football, and there's so many other openings going on right now. I'm wondering who they get. Could it be Signetti? Could it be Matt Campbell? And if it is Matt Campbell, would Penn State fans be okay with that, or do they want somebody more high profile? It's going to be interesting to see what comes along with this.
What's interesting is this. Uh, Up until last year, they weren't a huge player in the NIL space, and I think last year they were number 12 or 13. So this is all relatively new to them. I want to take it in a little bit different spin. So the buyout, from my understanding, I've read several different things. It's anywhere from 49 million up to 56 million dollars. That is an awful lot of money. As a coach, his salary, I believe, was $9 million a year, which is a lot of money. They are also paying Jim Knowles another $3 million a year, a lot of money. And I'm sure Kolanecki is getting another at least $1.5 million. So just in your top 3 guys, you had a salary of little about $13 million in coaches' salaries. When you fire the head coach, and say you bring in a Manny Diaz or Matt Campbell, like you guys have been talking, those salaries also, you got to replace them. And I'm sure they all have some sort of buyout. So let's say that the buyout for getting rid of those coaches is somewhere around $65 million. If you are a taxpayer in the state of Pennsylvania, the Keystone state of Pennsylvania, here's what I pulled up. The highest paid employee for the state of Illinois, excuse me, we're in Illinois, the state of Pennsylvania is Christopher Fiorentino. He's the chancellor for the state system of higher education. He made under $700,000. The football coach made 9. Okay.
Yeah, that's paid by the state. Yeah.
The second person on that list was was a physician there, a staff physician at the hospital, and their salaries were $630,000, $546,000, and $524. So, as a institution, Penn State, a state school, okay, and all this information is public records. Anybody can request this. That is an awful lot of money for these current economic times to give somebody, even if they spread it out over 5 years, $50 million just to walk away, plus another $13 million in dead money for the coaches. I mean, let's put it in perspective. We love college. That's why we're here. But I thought that was something that we need to look at.
Plus, they're gonna have to pay the new
What do
coach
you think
too.
about it? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
they
Go
have
ahead
to
and
pay
say
the
that again, Dan.
They're gonna have to pay the new coach too. So he's not gonna work for free.
Yeah, absolutely.
and his whole new
So,
staff as well.
yeah. So here's the question I want to ask both of you before we get into this, before we start getting into our top 12. What's James Franklin's legacy? I mean, he's got a Big Ten championship. He's won bowl games. I think his record was 125 and 45 overall while in the 12 years at Penn State. You got to remember he took over a program from Bill O'Brien after he left, and within 2 years of being there, he won a Big Ten championship. He went to the major bowls. Last year, he came within one play, one play.
Shout out to Drew
Just
Aller.
yeah, and actually the same one play occurred against Oregon.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that one play, they played in the championship last year. That one play this year, they probably extend that game and beat Oregon. So, guys, Dan, take a few minutes, think about it. Anwar, take a few minutes, think about it. And let's talk about his legacy. So I can give you a little bit more direction. Do you think he would be welcome back 10 years from now to come in and speak?
I think he would. I mean, right now it looks everybody's mad, everybody wanted him fired. But if you look back, he has brought them a lot of success. He kind of brought them back from after the scandal. He's the one who brought them back to prominence. I mean, they've been one of the top teams of the Big Ten for the last 10 years. They've been close. They won the Big Ten once, and he's brought them to the top to close to national championships, but just hasn't been able to make that final step. So I think looking back, people have a little bit less recency bias and be able to look at his career as a whole. And overall, I think he'll be welcomed back with open arms.
Yeah. I would say his legacy is going to go down similar to maybe like a John Cooper at Ohio State, similar to a Mark Richt at Georgia. A really, really good coach, but not elite. That's how I'd put James Franklin. He is a really, really good coach. Like Dan said, and I think it's very understated, Penn State, after the scandal, was almost like SMU type situation, just dead program. And really, he brought them back really quick. You mentioned Bill O'Brien, but they were down bad at that point too. And Franklin brought them back to relevancy. With those Saquon Barkley teams in 2016, winning the Big Ten championship right away. And unfortunately, as fans, we kind of get caught up in winning a national championship. But is there more to college football than just winning a national championship? Can you have a good season without winning a national championship? I know it based a lot on expectations, and at a place like Penn State, I guess is the expectation a national championship. This year it was, in the past it wasn't. So overall, like I said, I think he'll go down as a really, really, really good coach, bordering on that elite status, but not quite there yet. I think to get that elite status, I think he would have had to have some bigger wins in the playoffs. Like I know last year they just beat Boise State and SMU, and I feel like if they had beaten Notre Dame, even if they didn't win the national championship, he could have been on that elite status. But right now, I'm saying really, 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 really good legacy.
Dan, any pushback? Any comments on that?
No, I agree. Basically with everything that you said. I mean, going into this season, everybody talked about how he was one of the biggest weapons for Penn State. They talked about all the returning starters, all the experience, and then their coach. They had a coach who knew what to do. Um, I mean, 3 weeks ago, Penn State was ranked in the top 5, going into Oregon with national title aspirations, and then 3 weeks later, the whole world's upside down for him. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to take away the credit for what he's done over the last 10 years. I mean, look at my teams. My teams have not even gotten as far as he has. I mean, Notre Dame made it to the championship. I mean, overall, I think Penn State's had more good years where they're actually competing.
Anwar, thanks for digging deep on the John Cooper and Mark Richt stuff, because, I mean, as an Ohio State alum, right, Cooper finished, I think, 2 times, maybe 3 times, second in the country for instead of being the champion, we were finished second. He had all those losses to Michigan. I think he went 2-12 against Michigan. But finished number 2 twice at least. And then Mark Richt, he won multiple SECs. So those are good good correlations to James Franklin's situation. I think one of these days, let's have a show, if you guys don't mind, where we talk about the all in. And Dan, you just brought it up, uh, you know, or on where I forget which one of you said it, but it's national championship or bust. Let's face it. How many teams really can say national championship or
It's about 3. It's probably right now, it's Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. That's really about it.
in Miami right now, in
My
Oregon?
my
I
yeah.
think there's 5 teams that you can go. That's it. I mean, we're talking about right, and we're talking about big brands. So we're not saying Oklahoma, we're not saying Texas, we're not saying Michigan, right? We're
Well,
saying
Texas is on that
five
border,
teams.
but yeah.
So I think the reality is one of these, maybe we should do a special show just on what's the reality of championship or bust. Let's move on, guys. I'm sorry, I bogged us down a little bit here. Uh, Before we release our top 12, we got some stuff to talk about. Uh, there's so many good games coming up this week. So let's start with them. Do you realize that there are 5 matchups between ranked teams after the weekend we just had? So let's start off. We're going to talk about LSU versus Vanderbilt. They're going to Vanderbilt. So your comments, guys. You guys are the analysts. I'm just the host.
Anwar, I'll let you take this one first.
All right, yeah, sure. So, I think this is going to be an interesting game. In LSU's case, I feel like they only have 1 loss, but for some reason, I feel like LSU fans are not satisfied. It's like, like for a 1-loss team, like I feel like nobody's really talking about LSU. You've had this whole controversy with their offense, and I feel like, we're talking about coaches in that really good territory, but maybe not elite. And Brian Kelly is one of those. Brian Kelly's a really good coach, but like he's also trying to push that border into the elite category. And this season has kind of been a letdown offensively. Now their defense is great. I'm excited to see LSU's defense going up against that Vanderbilt offense and Diego Pavia. Vanderbilt's another team, kind of like Indiana, really having just a resurgence right now in this whole NIL era, showing the parity across college football. Vanderbilt was still only the 1 loss. Yeah, it's gonna be a great game between 2 1-loss teams. They're still totally vying for this SEC championship. So it should be a fun one, especially on the LSU defensive side of the ball and the Vanderbilt offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about too. People talked about LSU a lot at the beginning of the season after their first big win, and then kind of just stopped talking about them. And especially after they got their loss. And if you look at like their win against Clemson ended up being a lot weaker than people thought. Like at the beginning of the season, week 1, everybody thought like, wow, they beat Clemson. This was a top 5 team preseason. And then you look at Clemson now; they're unranked. That win doesn't mean much anymore. But they've still played some tough SEC teams. And then you look at Vanderbilt. People expected them to be better, but I don't know if people expected them to be as good as they have been. They played Alabama to a close game. That's their only loss right now. So, like you said, this is going to be a good game between 2 teams that are really fighting for the SEC championship in the playoffs. And I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Great, great. I think you guys are spot on with both of your analysis. The next big game. This is, man, we should save this next game to last, but let's go ahead and talk about it now. Ole Miss goes to Georgia.
All right,
At least
Dan,
we
you
know
start.
that Lane Kiffin's daughter is not dating somebody from Georgia this time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I mean, this is gonna be another one. I think this will be a little more explosive. We've seen some high scores from Georgia, especially for both teams, but I don't know. I think if you ask people, there are people who tell you these are the top 2 teams in the SEC. But I mean, we'll see. Georgia, they've been that dominant force in the SEC for the last few years, and Ole Miss is kind of trying to take their place now. We just look at how well Georgia's offense has played, and I guess we'll see. This is at Georgia, right? Like you said,
It's at Georgia.
at Georgia, man. I mean, how many teams have come in there and won in Athens?
Other than Alabama, nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than Alabama, no. Yeah, so for this game, it's funny, like there's kind of just some teams you like look up and they're still undefeated. And like Ole Miss is one of those. Like once again, they're kind of like the opposite of LSU. Everybody was talking about LSU coming into the season. Nobody was talking about Ole Miss coming into the season. I feel like Ole Miss's hype season was last year. The Jackson Dart second year, and you see how Jackson Dart's doing in the NFL right now, lighting it up. But this year, you bring in Austin Simmons, he goes down with an injury, and you have a backup that's better. So,
Yes.
really, Ole Miss is one of those teams where I'm really surprised that they're as good as they are, especially coming into the season with no hype whatsoever. As Dan mentioned before, Georgia's been the dominant team in the SEC. I think the key to this game is going to be the offensive line, which is generally generally the key to the game. But I watched like one of my favorite YouTubers is this guy named Uncle Lou. He's a big Georgia fan, and he talks about like how bad Georgia's defensive line is. So like apparently like they have a really weak defensive line this year and really low sack numbers. They only had one sack against Jackson Arnold last week at Auburn. And you saw Jackson Arnold get sacked about 10 times in the Oklahoma game. So I'm wondering if Georgia can put pressure on the defensive line, on Ole Miss's offensive line, and maybe get to Trinidad Chambliss a little bit, make life difficult for him. And I think that might be the key to the game. Can they get pressure on him?
Great. I just want to remind our viewers that when we've talked about these games, these are ranked on rank. So that LSU, no Vanderbilt game, LSU's number 10 in the AP, and um, Vanderbilt's number 17 in the Ole Miss Georgia game. Ole Miss is number 5, Georgia's number 9. So the question I'm going to ask you about this: if Georgia loses that game, what do you think their chances are of making the CFP?
Ooh. If they lose that game,
They would. So that means the
losses.
best they could finish would be 10-2, and still with a tough schedule to go. What do you think?
Can somebody let's pull up Georgia's remaining schedule real quick. That was they got Bama off the schedule. Georgia
You
football
got it
schedule.
there?
Yeah, I pulled up Georgia's schedule. They still got to play Florida. They got to play Texas. They play Georgia Tech, which that could be an interesting game at the end of the season. So Georgia still got some difficult games in the season. So if they lose this game, whole lot of pressure going into that Texas game, going into that Georgia Tech game. And if they finish 10-2 and they don't make the SEC championship, I think they'll get in the playoffs. But that's going to put a lot of pressure on some big games coming up in the upcoming weeks for Georgia. So really, for their sake, if they want to have a solid shot at making the playoffs, I feel like they need to win this game.
Dan, any thoughts on that, or are you good with what Anwar just said?
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I think my call cut out for a little bit, so I missed some of that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes.
Okay. So here goes the next one. Number 11. This is a legacy game. So in other words, going forward, this game will always be played. Number 11, Tennessee plays at number 6, Alabama. Now, what are your thoughts on that one? First off, and the loser comes out with 2 losses, just to let you know. Where are we at? What do you guys think on this one? Dan, you want to go first since?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how Kalen DeBoer's Alabama keeps it going against Tennessee. They've been really strong since that week 1 loss against Florida State. But I mean, Ty Simpson has come out of nowhere as a Heisman candidate. I don't think many people expected that going into the season. And then you have Joey Aguilar on the Tennessee side. There'll be, I mean, it's good. Another 2 good offenses in this game. We'll see. And then it's almost like this week right now is kind of like a semifinal for the for the SEC championship. It's got well, maybe even quarterfinals. These 3 games we've been talking about are going to be hugely important to see who goes to the SEC championship.
Yeah. So for me, this game, like, I don't think Ole Miss and Georgia will be an offensive explosion. I don't think LSU Vanderbilt's going to be an offensive explosion. I think the final score of this game could be like 52-49 or something. Like these
Whoa.
are, yeah. Like for Tennessee, man, I loved watching their offense. Big play. Both of the teams will throw the ball around. You know, neither of these. I mean, neither of these teams are like a Big Ten style team with the ground and pound 4 yard. These teams, both Alabama and Tennessee, are whip the ball all around the field, throw it 50 yards down the field. So whatever happens in this game is gonna be fun to watch. Like there's gonna be a lot of deep passes. And it should be a really interesting one. I'm expecting a high score in this game. Um, you know, like Dan said, this is another one for the SEC championship. Both teams coming in with one loss. Feel like Tennessee hasn't really been tested that much since the Georgia game. Actually they had a kind of weak showing last week against Arkansas. But we're gonna find out a lot more about Tennessee. I feel like I've seen what I need to see from Bama. They've proved to me in my mind that Bama's back. They're definitely a solid team this year after that Florida State loss. I feel like this is a prove it game, specifically on the Tennessee side. Are they a title contender? I think Bama is, but I want to know about Tennessee, and I think I'll learn a lot about Tennessee from this week.
Mark, can I push back on you? The most recent game Alabama had was Missouri on the road.
No, I was talking about Tennessee.
No, but you said Alabama's back.
Yeah, yeah.
So my pushback is their most recent game, they were at Missouri, right? They won the game 27-24, but they had to rely on an interception late in the game to win that game. Yet you think Alabama's back?
First of all, okay, they were on the road at Missouri. Missouri was an undefeated team. I don't think that's an easy win. I think Missouri's a good team, and I was impressed by the win. I was impressed by that, and also I saw a little bit out of Bama's running game, which I hadn't seen the rest of the season. They finally got Jam Miller involved. Like I said, they are a passing team first, but I was impressed with the running game last week. And I think that was a good win. I think you're kind of diminishing that win. I think that was a good win.
Speaking for Dan, we both picked Missouri to win that game last week. So I thought it was a good win, but whew, that was close. All right. Here in the Midwest, let's talk about where it's always the best, right? We got the Big Ten taking on the number 1 independent team. So Southern Cal comes to Notre Dame this weekend. I'm going to let Dan go second because I can see him. He's over to Dan. He's like, I got to talk about it. So Anwar, can we get your thoughts on that game?
Sure.
And
So
is
first of
this
all,
an elimination game for Notre Dame? Because if they lose, that's 3 losses. And right now they might or might not make it. They're really on the cusp. And we haven't even got to the 12 teams yet.
oh, but first of all, I want to say, so you're talking about Midwest, and I was thinking, like, oh, he's talking about Notre Dame, because you said like Big Ten team in Midwest, and then I was like, wait a second, the Big Ten team is the one from Southern California.
I know. That seems so strange to say.
I know. Southern California taking on the Midwest, but the Big Ten team is actually the team from Southern California. Yeah, this is a huge game. This is Notre Dame's season. This is after the Texas A&M and Miami loss. This is really the last game that Notre Dame has to prove themselves. For Notre Dame, it was such a good thing that USC beat Michigan last week. That was huge for Notre Dame because Notre Dame, like, they're on the border at 10-2 of making the playoffs. And in order for Notre Dame to even make the play, if they lose this game, they're out 100%. They still have a shot, but USC having a strong record and them beating USC would do leaps and bounds to get them in the playoffs. Notre Dame needs this win because they are out, like guaranteed out with 3 losses, without a doubt. They're on the cusp with 2 wins, but what they need to do is they need to beat USC. They need to win out, and they need USC maybe not to win out, but maybe only take 1 more loss. USC needs to be a top 25 team at the end of the season, so Notre Dame can say we had a ranked win. They looked good last week against NC State. Notre Dame did, and maybe NC State finishes at like the 25 to 20 range. We'll see. But I think this is Notre Dame's last chance for a statement win on this season.
All right, Notre Dame boy.
Yeah.
Illinois and Notre Dame boy. Okay, guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Anwar took the words out of my mouth with the Big Ten comment. When you were saying that, I was like, wait, is there another game that that you didn't tell me about? And then I was like, oh yeah, USC's in the Big Ten.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is an elimination game for both teams. USC is quietly building back their playoff resume. I mean, their only losses, they have 1 loss to Illinois. They just beat Michigan and it wasn't very close. And then they have a chance to come up against, let's see, I'm looking at the schedule right now. They have Iowa, which is, and then Oregon, which could be a big game. And then UCLA, who knows? Maybe that's a big game by the time they play last week of the season. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be huge. Both teams, like Notre Dame cannot afford another loss, like Anwar said. Like you can't go and, I mean, it was already bad enough that they lost the first 2 teams that they played that were ranked. Can't lose the only other team that's going to be ranked. Maybe Navy will be, but I mean, even as a ranked team, it's not the same. Beating a service academy. And then there's just the rivalry factor is even more. This is probably the most important that this game has been to both teams since 2006, maybe. Where it actually had stakes outside of just being a rivalry game. But it's gonna be fun to see. I think Notre Dame will take care of it, but I don't know. USC looks good. It was really hard having to cheer for them last week against Michigan.
Yeah,
It's like,
especially if you
yeah,
guys beat USC, Dan's gonna be like the biggest USC fan for the rest of the season because you gotta be. So
no. I don't think they need USC to be good after that. Maybe we could do like how Notre Dame just kind of dismantled Arkansas, or like how Oregon kind of just ended Penn State's season. But I think just looking at how USC was going into the game. But yeah, no, seriously, USC versus Michigan. It's like, do I want you to stab me or hit me with your car? But the USC game, I mean, it meant more for the schedule, so I had to take that side.
I think the big question to me is how much did Michigan physicality affect USC, which is going to affect this game? I think that's something we should be looking at. I got to be honest with you. I know who I'm pulling for. I'm just going to skip over it right now.
it's me going for USC.
All right. So let's go ahead and talk about one more of the big games this weekend. And is this the one they call the Holy War? Utah and BYU?
It's the Holy War. It's the Holy War.
Okay, so Utah is number 23, and spoiler alert, BYU is number 15 in the AP poll. And when I voted this week, I voted them in my top 12. I'm just going to let
Me
you
too.
know.
Me too.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? When we talk about the top 12, let's see where they land then. All right. And let me ask you this. There's a lot of rumors. First off, here's what's happening. Willingham, this is supposed to be his last year, right? At Utah. Sataki, is he going to take the UCLA job? So those 2 things are background things going on with this game. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the game itself. What do you guys see?
Dan, go ahead.
All right. Yeah.
Like we
I mean, this is
follow a
another.
lot of Utah BYU games, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, like these are two teams that also nobody's really been talking much about. They're kind of sneaking in back into that back end of the AP rankings, and those aren't ours. And we could see BYU getting closer to our rankings, but I mean, nobody really talked about these teams going into the season, even though they had the success in recent years that they deserve the respect. Um, but I mean, it takes BYU to be 6-0 for them to even get a little bit of national conversation. And then Utah 5-1, we saw them just destroy. It was Arizona State this past weekend. Yeah, it's just both these teams are really strong. They could be a big force in the Big 12.
Yeah, so man, I'm just gonna preface this. I've watched Utah. I have not watched a single second of a BYU game this year. I have no idea what their strengths are. I have no idea what their weaknesses are. I don't know why, but they always come on super late at night or at night at their time, and I just haven't watched them. I'm well, they would have lost the game by now. But here we are, week 7, and who's at the top of the Big 12? It's Texas Tech, who we expected. And there's one more, and it's BYU. What? For me, I put them in my top 12 because being in a Power 4 conference and being undefeated at this point in the season, I think it deserves a top 12 ranking. Unless you literally beat nobody. But I think this is a huge game. This right now, besides Texas Tech, these are the top 2 teams in the Big 12. Actually, speaking of Big 12, Cincinnati is also just randomly sitting there with 1 loss, which kind of just nobody else expected that either. Cincinnati is still there with the 1 loss. But yeah, it should be a really interesting game. I have watched Utah. They got a strong offense. Dismantled my Big 12 favorite, Arizona State last week. No Sam Levitt. Yeah, this is a game I'll definitely I will definitely watch BYU this week, finally.
Unlike you two, I've watched about 3 BYU games, not the entire game, but I've watched about 3. And I know earlier in the season when we were talking about top performers, I saw a couple of top performers there. But here's what I've seen from BYU. Um, First off, the head coach, this team is completely prepared when they step on the field. They play solid defense, and they have a very efficient and effective offense. I've been kind of surprised by them this year. And like I said, that coach is going to have them ready to play. But then again, Willingham's going to have his team ready to play. Because remember, my sleeper team at the beginning of the year
Yeah.
from them was Utah. And,
Yeah, you're
they
right.
had that
You
early
did call
season loss, which made no sense to me. But here we are. If we're using a horse racing analogy or a car racing analogy, we're on the back stretch. We're getting ready to hit the top of the turn before we come down the main stretch. Um, we're seeing who's alive and who's not, and Utah's right there. And the Big 12 is still to be decided. So, guys, this is what everybody tunes into our show for. By the way, guys, very good job on analyzing those games coming up this week. Um, who's I can't believe that we're not talking about Ohio State, Wisconsin. I mean, gosh, that's been like a staple in the Big Ten. So anyway, let's talk about our top 12. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
So let's start at the bottom. And let's give a quick so let's do it this way. So everybody gets a quick comment. We'll start at number 12. So Dan, do you want to start? And what you're just going to give us 1 or 2 words on the number 12 team. Then Anwar, you give us 1 or 2 words on the number 11 team. And then I'll take the number 10. And then Dan, you go back to 9, okay?
Sure.
Dan, can you
Can you
So
send me the
number
rankings?
12.
Yeah.
Dan, you want to announce number 12 and give a comment on them?
Actually, when I got kicked out of the call, it restarted my chat. Can you send me the rankings one more time?
Sure. Hold on just for a second. This is live. That's why this is real stuff. You see it, Dan?
Let's see. Yep, see it. All right.
Okay. So you got number 12.
All right. Sorry. It's going slow. All right. Let's see. Okay. Number 12. We talked about them earlier. We got Tennessee. Number 12, Tennessee. We're going to see how they do this weekend, see if they stay in our top 12 against Alabama. I think they're either going to fall out or move up a lot, depending on how this weekend goes.
Now that was in-depth analysis right there. Either they're
Yeah.
going to move up or fall out.
Yep. But yeah, we'll see.
So, it's all about the quarterbacks. Aguiar, right? How well does he do? Anwar, you got number 12, number 11. Who you got?
All right, so our number 11 team in the country is the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm sure some people would look at this ranking. They'd be like, "Hey, like why is LSU above Georgia?" That's just how the things fell out. I can't control everything, but Georgia's number 11. The keys for Georgia this week. Can we get a solid run game going? I know they had a lot of running back, hokey pokey running back, switch this guy in, switch this guy out. They had like four or five running backs they cycled through. Can they find a consistent running back? And can their defensive line finally get to the quarterback, pressure him, get sacks?
Okay, I got number 10. Number 10 is LSU. So does Brian Kelly find a running game? Does the shortcomings that Nussmeier have, do they go away this week? And do they become an asset when they play Vanderbilt? So we're going to find out. Dan, you got number 9. Who's number 9?
Number 9, we have Georgia Tech. I don't know how many people expected Georgia Tech to be ranked above Georgia going into this season.
True.
I'm one of the people who ranked them higher, man. Yeah. I mean, but undefeated Georgia Tech. And they have a clear path to the ACC championship. They're 6-0 right now. They don't play another ranked opponent until the last week of the season against Georgia. And who knows what happens then. And then we're looking at, they could have an inside shot to the playoff race right now. And I would just keep it going. They got Duke this week. Duke's a tough team, but I think Georgia Tech will be all right. And we'll see how it goes.
Anwar, you've got number 8.
Number 8, Texas Tech, oil money, tortillas, Baron Morton. Yeah, once again, Texas Tech team spent $1 million more than $1 million, millions of dollars in the NIL transfer portal. Like an older team with plenty of experience. They got Arizona State coming up this week. Yeah, they got Arizona State, a Sam Levis, Arizona State. Throw the ball around. Solid defense. Get turnovers like I saw in that Utah game. Secondary look great. Wide receivers look great. And yeah, just keep winning and proving that you're not just top of the Big 12, but a legit champion contender.
All right. So I've got number 7. And number 7 is Oregon. Oregon's fine. Listen, I don't see them losing another game. I see them going to the CFP, being one of the teams that gets a home playoff in Autzen, and I they're going to be fine. They got too much talent. Not to be okay. I would probably say they win the first round. They probably win their second round. We'll go from there, see who they draw. But as long as Dante Moore plays well and the defense plays the way Oregon defense can play, they're fine. They're a strong number 7. Guys, I don't think losing to Indiana should have caused them to drop that far. I would disagree with the way how we dropped them. I disagree with how far the AP dropped them. So, because I think that devalued Indiana in both cases. So Dan, you get Alabama. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. You get number 6.
Yep. Number 6, Alabama. And I agree with what you're saying about Oregon too. I think they should, at worst, have been the top-ranked one-loss team. But here, the actual top-ranked one-loss team, Alabama, right here. I mean, we talked about them a lot throughout the season and today. They got an important game against Tennessee coming up. And we'll see if they really are back. Like Anwar was saying. I think that they are. And I think that they're going to be a real force to be reckoned with in the SEC and in the college football playoff.
Okay. Anwar, you got number 5.
Number 5, the Rebels of Ole Miss. You know, one thing I've always thought is like, why do they have Ole in their name? It's the University of Mississippi, but for some reason they call it Ole Miss. But why is it not Old Miss? It's something I just was thinking about. But back to football. So Ole Miss, tough game this week against Georgia. This is probably their biggest test of the season. For them, it's really prove that you're a top 5 team. You know, right now, I think that, like I said earlier, I feel like, actually, I don't think I said this on this show, but I told it to these two before we started recording. But I was surprised that Texas A&M was above Ole Miss in our ranking. You know, both being in the SEC, both being undefeated, and a lot of people like in the AP, Ole Miss is above Texas A&M, but here we have Ole Miss a little bit lower. And I was a little bit surprised about that. But yeah, there's a huge game coming up this week against Georgia, and listen, they could knock Georgia out with a win right here. So even just within the conference, you want to take another team out of that conference race. So big game for them and big game for the SEC this week.
Okay. I got number 4. And I'm going to preface this. This is wrong. Number 4 is Indiana. And to me, the way they played, going to Autzen, they should be number 3. But, you know, I'm just one of the voters. I rank them a lot higher. Indiana, it seems like Signetti's got everything working for them right now. So Dan, you get number 3. Who's number 3?
Number 3, Texas A&M. And once again, I agree with you. I would have had Indiana a little higher. I mean, Texas A&M still a great team. Number 3, I don't want to take anything away from them. Undefeated, strong win over Notre Dame. I think that they're the top team in the SEC right now, not just from a rankings and standings perspective, but I think they're the best team. I think that they're going to win the SEC.
The best team?
Best team in the SEC, yeah. Best SEC team. I think that they're going to win the SEC. So we'll see if that holds true. And then we'll on to the next one.
Anwar,
Yeah,
you've got
next
number 2. Who's number 2?
Yeah. For number 2 team, we've got the Miami Hurricanes. Miami's one of those teams that truly has no weaknesses. Last year had a weak defense. They rebuffed that in the transfer portal. They've got like absolute studs like Ruben Bain. On the offensive side of the ball, you bring in Carson Beck, and you have a stud wide receiver breakout in Malachi Toney. Miami is one of these teams that really has just no weaknesses, including their lines of scrimmage. A lot of people say that Miami has the best offensive line in the country. I can see that, just a massive unit in front. And I think that's the strength of this team is really just the lines of scrimmage and them overall having no weaknesses. This week, Miami has Louisville. Louisville's a sneaky little ACC team sitting there with only maybe 2 losses. But Louisville is one of these type of teams that likes to pull up all the upsets. So I'll definitely keep an eye out on that game. But Miami is definitely top 3 in the country. I also agree with you guys. I also had Indiana at number 3, and I think you could even make a case that Indiana could be number 2.
Okay. And number 1 in our poll since week 3 is Ohio State. And they're seem like right now their kicker kicked a 50-plus yard field goal. So their special teams has been well. Their kickoff returns have been strong. Their defense is outstanding. And that offense, you know, you take away the run, they beat you with the pass. You take away the pass, they can beat you with the run. So there you have it. Number 12, Tennessee. And you can see the post right here. So we got Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, Georgia Tech, Texas Tech, Oregon, Alabama, Ole Miss, Indiana, Texas A&M, Miami, and Ohio State. It's a great season. Hey, guys, I want to thank you for being on the show again this week. You guys are watching Talking College Football with Luke, with analyst Dan Pedraza and analyst Anwar Thornton. We're college football fans. We know that you're college football fans. We appreciate your comments and feedback. We like the fact that this week we had 2,000 views to our show. So yes, our subscriber count is low, but gosh, you guys are watching our show. That's fantastic. Now, if you would only subscribe. So thank you guys for being on the show. Looking forward to talking to you next week. Remember, the show airs every Thursday at 10 a.m. on our YouTube channel. I'm out.
All
Peace,
right.
guys. See y'all next week.
See you next week.
Bye.